Air awareness, how to deal with being stuck in the air. I'm Tony, welcome back to Streetball Strategies.
Hit the brakes, ahead of our time. The future late grace, no cakes, never save face. Go crazy, yeah. Raised in the jungle, the royal rumble. If you got it, you have to hustle.
Today we're talking about a topic where it's probably kind of rare, but it will happen occasionally. This came up because I was watching the opening night of the 2023 NBA season, and I saw this happen multiple times in 2 games. And that is when a player finds themselves being double teamed or somehow, or caught in the corner maybe, but they get overwhelmed by the defense. They kind of panic and they jump in order to create some space between them and the defense, but now that they're in the air, they don't really have a plan. They don't know what to do because they panicked. They're in the air now because they wanted to create that space, and now they're stuck. That kind of situation eventually happens to all of us players. There can be a difference between getting caught in that situation and panicking and needlessly turning the ball over, and finding yourself in that situation and making a decent to good play and at least escaping and surviving a situation like that. Now, of course, there's going to be some players who say, well, just don't get yourself caught in that situation in the first place. Don't jump when you don't need to, thus you won't get caught in the air and find yourself in a bad situation. Obviously, we'd want to try to avoid that situation altogether, but it's going to happen. It happens to everybody at some point. So today we're going to talk about how you can handle it and how you can prepare for it, so when you find yourself in that situation, you can handle it best. 3 elements to dealing with this. The first one being overall general court awareness. Because if you don't have good court awareness when you're on the ground, it's not going to get any better when you find yourself caught in the air. To me, when we talk about court awareness, at least for this topic in this video, to me it's all about having a clear, organized mind. And you're going to need it because we're not just talking about, in general, like what's going on with you in that moment. We're not just talking about like what are you doing in a given moment or a given play. We want to go as broadly and deeply as we can. The broader and deeper your awareness is, the better you're going to be able to deal with high stress situations like being caught in the air. So it's more than just what's going on with you in a given moment. We're also talking about how and why your defender is doing what he's doing. So you're not just aware of what he's doing, but you need to be aware of how and why. Same thing with your teammates. What are they doing? How and why are they doing what they're doing? What about the rest of the defense? Their defenders. What are they doing? How and why are they doing that? The better understanding you have of all of that, which is a lot, the better you understand that, the better you're going to be able to deal with whatever situation comes at you, be it high pressure or not. We'll get into how you can develop that kind of awareness in a second, but let's move on to the second element of how to handle being caught in the air. The second element that's going to help you to deal with being stuck in the air is being in the present moment, the here and now. And when we're talking about this, what I'm thinking about is emotion, the emotion that you're feeling in the present moment. So the first element was all about your mind and how your mind was clear and organized. When we're talking about being in the present moment, now we're talking about your emotions being clear and organized. Because in order to be in the present moment, here and now, focused on what's happening only here and now, right? You can't be dwelling on feelings that happened from the previous play. For example, if you had some kind of a turnover in the previous play that led to you being in whatever situation you are right now, like you were handling the ball and the defense got a hand on it, you know, he hit it away from you, you had to chase it down, you picked up your dribble, now you're stuck, you're getting double teamed, the defense is swarming you, you don't know what to do, you panic, you jump in the air, you get caught in the air. If in that present moment, while you're stuck in the air, if you're dwelling on the fact that you had that near turnover, right, you made that mistake, you're feeling bad about it, you're feeling embarrassed about it, right? The more you're feeling that in that moment, the more distracted you're going to be the more likely you are to make a bad play because of being distracted. You can make the argument for the opposite as well. Like if you did something really great, very positive in the previous play, and you're very happy and proud of that, but then defense swarms you, you panic, you're in the air. If in that moment you're still having that feeling of what you just did and how proud and happy you are of it, again, it doesn't matter. It's a matter of having any emotion. The more you're feeling and the more you're aware of that emotion, the more likely you are to be distracted and turn the ball over. So in this video, when I talk about being in the present moment, I'm talking about emotionally, being emotionally level and clear and present, not worrying about what just happened and not worrying about what's about to happen, like what you're going to do next, or if you're in the air and what happens if I do this or that, being worried and having anxiety. Like, you don't want any of that. You just want to be clear and level when it comes to your emotions so that you can be in the present and focus. What just happened or what's about to happen doesn't matter in that moment. Don't bring any emotion that doesn't need to be there into that current moment. So then how do you develop these two things? When we talk about having general court awareness and then being present in the moment, how do you develop this? Well, especially if you're a newer player, really the best and kind of only answer is you gotta go through it. You have to experience it, meaning you gotta find yourself in those situations and then see how you as a player, how your mind, how your emotions naturally react to situations like that. And the newer you are, like the less experience you have, probably the more poorly you're likely to handle it. And that's fine, that's natural, that's what happens. The point is, you have to pay attention in those moments and figure out what happened. Like, what did you do wrong? So you find yourself in a panicking kind of situation, you make whatever mistake you make, right? Keep that in mind. Don't overlook it. Don't forget about it. Like, don't beat yourself up about it either, but be conscious of like, okay, what happened in that moment? How did I feel? How did my feelings then affect the way I reacted to that panicky situation? Also, a lot of young new players also kind of fear moments like that, right? Because they are young, they're new, they're unexperienced, so they don't know how to handle situations like that when they arise to them. And they fear that when situations like that happen, they're gonna panic, right? And the more you fear that, the more you dread it, the more likely you are to panic in that moment, because you're like, oh my God, it's here. It's like, it's happening. I knew it was gonna happen. Now what do I do, right? And the more anxiety you have about it, probably the worse you're gonna handle it when that situation happens. So instead of fearing it, instead of being anxious about it, just realize it's gonna happen. Sooner or later, it's gonna happen because it happens to everybody. It happens to every level player at some point in time. It's gonna happen to you numerous times over your basketball career. So because you know it's inevitable that it's going to happen to you, don't fear it, don't have anxiety about it, just deal with it the best you can, the best you know how, when the situation arises. And realize that if you've never experienced it before, or you have very little experience, you're probably gonna make mistakes. You're gonna try your best, but you're also gonna make mistakes, and that's fine. Point is, you need to learn from those mistakes. And then in the next situation, when that same kind of thing happens, you gotta do a little bit better. Like, you have to make a little bit better decision, and you probably will, as long as you don't pretend and act like, oh, the last mistake in that similar situation, that didn't matter, it didn't matter to me, it was a fluke, and I'll just like handle it perfectly next time. Don't front about the fact that you made that mistake. Acknowledge it, right, and then actually learn from it. Now let's get into the third element, which will be able to help you even more, because I know saying like just experience making mistakes and then learn from them isn't really great, like precise advice, but when we talk about this third element, we'll get a little bit better and clearer on how to be able to handle situations like that. The third element to situations like being caught in the air is actually having true, genuine preparation and planning, so that when you find yourself in a high pressure situation, you can form a plan instantaneously if you didn't already have one. Even in situations like that where you ended up doing something that you didn't want to do or plan to do, you can then form a plan immediately without panicking and creating some kind of bad turnover. The two main ways to get to that goal is, one, when you're practicing, right? When you're running drills, workouts, when you're working on building whatever skills or move sets that you're trying to develop, right? You need to focus on variations on moves and skills, so that you don't just do the same kind of move set every time. The whole idea is improvisation, making improvisation easy, so that you can do whatever variation on whatever move that you want in any given situation. You're trying to give yourself as many options as possible. You don't want to just be able to execute a certain move in only one certain way. You want to be able to complete a move in whatever way, in any variation that you can think of. Practice that, drill that in practice, so that whatever variation you happen to do feels comfortable and natural. You need to be able to look at the defense and say, okay, I was going to do this move in this way, but obviously the defense is ready for that, or they're going to be able to defend it too easily. So instead, I'll put this variation on the move that the defense probably isn't ready for, and thus it'll make it a higher percentage move or shot for me. The better, faster you can do that, right, the better you're going to be able to deal with high pressure situations, because you'll be able to modify what you're doing on the fly without having it feel awkward, right? Instead, it'll feel natural to do that. The more natural it feels, the more effective of a player you're going to be. Second of all is to study, right? Study yourself. The way you're going to do that is you're going to have game tape, right? You're going to record yourself playing games. If you're not doing that, if you're not recording yourself and you're not studying that game tape, you are cheating yourself out of really good experience. Because when we're talking about high pressure situations, right, the more you can see yourself in those high pressure situations, study yourself, see what you do in those, how you react to those high pressure situations. Like, it's different than just being in the moment and then trying to remember later on what you did, how you reacted, and what you did wrong. When you have it on film, right, now you can really study it. You can really be honest with yourself. What did you do? How and why did you do that? And you have the mental picture now in your head for the future. So you're studying your game tape, you actually physically see what you physically do in those high pressure situations. Now, in the future, when you find yourself in the court, you can not only can you see, and predict those high pressure situations, coming at you, like developing. Not only can you be aware of, like, okay, I recognize this situation. This is a kind of a situation that could very well lead to the defense coming out and double teaming me. The better you can recognize that, the more prepared for it you can be. The more prepared for it you are, the less you're going to panic. And the better you study your own game tape, the better you'll be able to recognize situations like that in the first place. So don't be afraid, don't be embarrassed to record yourself. Create as much game tape of yourself as possible. That's how you develop air awareness, right? It's a combination of having a clear, organized mind, having clear, organized emotions that don't distract your mind from doing what it needs to do, and then being prepared for whatever eventuality is going to happen out here. So I want to thank you guys for watching. If you liked this video, if it made sense, hopefully it did make sense. If it did, and if you think it's going to help you deal with high pressure situations like being caught in the air, then please subscribe to the channel. And make sure you hit that thanks button down below when you do, to comment and let me know how you handle high pressure situations like that out here. Every comment that you make is going to be highlighted and stand out from all of the other comments. So anybody that does hit that thanks button, know I genuinely appreciate it. As always, like, share, comment like I said. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified whenever any video goes live on this channel. And until then, I'll see you guys next week.
This all I know. Nowhere lights is green light go. I feel like I'm in my zone.